Hey, folks, welcome. Sorry, yes, I know Ralph. We got a couple of members in the chat already, chatting it up. Welcome, Ralph. Welcome, Paul. Yes, we're late, but whatever. But we're here, better late than never. And let's go ahead and get get this on the road.
Get the ball rolling.
When
Yeah,
are we?
exactly.
When are we ever on time anyway?
We are. We
Actually,
have been.
we're closer than on time than we.
Yeah, this
probably ever
is
been.
pretty good for us.
Yeah.
So
That's fine. Relax, okay? Anywho, let's go ahead and introduce our star of the evening. You know him for many names.
Oh yeah, there is many names for this man.
This man has acquired titles like no other.
Yeah.
They call him passionate. They call him what's it again? Like
King
a
of
party animal.
The King of Spring
The
Break.
King of Spring Break. What else has he?
What are the
acquired?
names you have there, Pat, that we may not know?
Well, all right. So then let's introduce the doofus and the idiot, Mr. Patrick Goodin.
Oh, that's funny. Yay!
Yeah,
All right.
that's what I'm talking about. How you doing, Pat? Doing pretty good.
Good,
Much
good.
better now.
Thanks for asking. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
asking. Yes.
I
Yeah,
feel-
everybody's good. Everybody's good. My brother couldn't make it tonight, so he's gonna be in the chat there. And I don't know. So what have you been up to since we last hung out? Yeah. Yep.
Well, my question is, what happened at the last event that was it again round 3 for clutch kickers that unfortunately we couldn't be graced with your presence.
It's just like a budget thing. Sort of Troy offered me like a sick deal to drive that car, and it was an awesome deal. It's just I had no time in the car, and I couldn't get the funding to go test the car. Whatever, and I was like, man, I kind of feel like we're both not wasting our time, but like if I don't get more time in this car, I'm not gonna be able to do well because I've never really driven a high horsepower turbo car before.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a big struggle. And I was like, if I had more funding, I could go test the car more. I think we would have kept doing it, but it kind of just didn't seem like it was really going to work out. Like nothing on Troy's end. Everything he did was awesome. He went
Right.
above and beyond to help me out. It's just couldn't get the funding to go testing. And if I was only driving the car there, I didn't think I'd be able to do as good as that car is capable of doing.
Okay.
yeah, and a car like that, I mean, big turbo, high horsepower, and at a track like Clutch Kickers where it's very technical, I can imagine it could be kind of a handful to drive. Is that your experience with it?
Yeah, because I'm trying to think if I've ever driven the only other big turbo like 2J car was Adam's S15. And that was on the skid pad and it had nitrous and it's a big stroker motor and it completely different. And it was literally just 2 laps. So like I could give him feedback on what he was feeling and making sure we were like on the same page.
Right.
So other than that, like other than driving at Clutch Kickers, I'd never really driven a car like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Are you going to be driving next round? A couple weeks?
No,
Yeah. I don't think I saw
Dang.
you on the list. I was just hoping maybe like a last minute entry.
no, I'll be there, but I won't be driving.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well,
So
hey, hang on. I got a suggestion because they've clutch kickers announced that they're going to have a slip and slide. Now, of course, Mr. Patrick Goodin being
huh.
the party animal king of spring break, I feel like he can go back to his judge position
Yeah.
and go and judge the slides are going to be taking place over at clutch
Judge the
kickers.
slip and
Pat, are
slide.
you up for it?
Yeah, I mean, I can make it happen.
So yeah, I saw that. So I saw that text about the slide, and the first thing I thought about is like, okay, I'm thinking this big slide. After like the 10th person, it's gonna start turning blackish brownish, and there's gonna be this like rainbow haze over the end of it. By the end of the event, it's gonna be like jumping into a vat of axle grease. I mean, really, this was gonna be. I mean, you know, it's gonna be pretty serious unless they have some way to filter that water. But I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I feel like the filtration systems in Holt, Florida aren't really that great.
It's probably gonna be well water to begin with, so there you go. I mean, you're already starting off on a bad foot.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so One of the questions I had for you is watching, because you've been an FD or been a pro FD driver since 2012, I believe, right?
Mhm.
So what would you say has changed the most since your start in as a pro till now in FD?
The level of grip,
Okay.
pretty much. Like the level of grip is the reason the cars are so powerful, so hard to drive. Like everything comes from the grip and the speed. Yeah, other than that, like yeah, I guess it's really just the grip, and like it's insane. Like I always tell people, like I wish I still had my FD car and a stack of 285 Achilles to just be like, go drive this and see what it feels like, because it's the most insane feeling of how fast the cars are. And I haven't been in it for 2 years, and from the looks of it, the cars are getting even faster.
Yeah.
Like you watch some of the live stream and it like almost looks sped up because they're going so fast.
Right. So, because basically most of the drivers are still the same drivers, and most of the tracks are still the same tracks. So, what do you mean by grip? Just for people that are watching, how like you talking mechanical grip, car setup, tires? I mean, tire size is pretty much the same from what I remember. So, what do you mean by like more grip?
Tires are different. They're like, sure, it's still the 615, the Falcon, but it's a 615K plus.
Okay.
So the compound's changed. And if you ran a normal 615, like the old, I don't know what, 2009 tire
Mm-hmm.
against the 615K plus, same size, same everything, it'd be night and day, completely different.
Okay.
And like Nitto's with I think it's a 315 40,
Mm-hmm.
like that tire is insane. And it's not just the compound of it, it's how they built the tire. Like
Okay.
if you watch, you can watch some videos of the tire moving, and it looks like a wrinkle wall drag tire almost.
Right, okay.
Like
Yeah.
the movement those tires can do, and like and also the mechanical. Everybody's figured out how to put all this crazy mechanical grip in their cars.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's also funny, like every year, it's been the same since I started. Every single year you do something different, because we'll be like, oh, this is it, this is the pinnacle, it's probably not going to get better than this. And then next year, 3 rounds in, it's like, oh, this car that was a rocket ship at Irwindale last year is now like creeping through the track, and everybody else is 5 miles an hour faster than me.
That's crazy.
Huh. I got a question in regards to the tires. So let's say you get one of those tires that you just mentioned, and you put it on a standard Toyota Yaris. What kind of effect do you feel it's gonna have on the drivability?
Drive terrible.
Okay, there we go.
Drive so bad.
You-
Formula D cars drive so atrocious unless you're drifting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's gone to a point where the experience and just everybody's getting so much experience setting up the cars and constantly making changes and making tweaks to really, because that's really what you got on the track, is to outperform the other drivers.
Mhm.
So you guys are just pushing each other and pushing each other and pushing each other.
Yeah.
And it's just evolving the sport so much. For a long time it seemed like Formula Drift was like the grippiest cars, but you're starting to see that now over in Europe, especially this season, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those cars, they're
Yeah.
in
Drift Masters.
Drift Masters, they're ripping.
Yeah. Crazy
So-
fast.
Yeah.
But what does that do to like somebody? Let's say somebody coming into FD as a rookie and they've never set up a car like this, and because if you were a rookie back in back in 2010, even 2012, like when you came in, the cars were kind of closer to what people normally set up their cars at in a regular fun day or whatever. But now the cars are so crazy. If you're a rookie coming into this, how much harder does that make it to be competitive right off the bat?
It's slowly turning into one of those things that it's like, I don't want to say unobtainable because it's not, but it's becoming so ridiculous of like, even the jump from Pro-Am to Pro 2 is ridiculous. And then the jump from Pro 2 to Pro is crazy. Like it's the, and it is talent, but I would say talent based on experience kind of thing.
but even still, like, kind of going off a little bit, like the tire rule for Pro 2, the 255s, I think it's great. But then you go to Pro 1 after you ran a season on 255s and you're like, man, I made my car super fast. I'm used to it. I'm way faster than all these other Pro 2 guys. It's like, okay, well, bolt this 315 Nitto onto your car and run it at, I'm not going to say the tire pressure they run, but it's extremely low, and tow your car in a bunch and make it do all these crazy things. And you go to drive it and it's like, oh, you can't. It's just like an impossibility to drive the car. It's just testing and all this stuff. And you can see the dudes that do it right because they're the ones that are involved with pro teams. Even if it's not necessarily RTR or Drift Cave or like a big team or Rockstar, whoever, they'll just be involved with a program, like say a rookie. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to run Pro 2 next year. They get to see what everybody else does. And you kind of like progress from there. And a lot of the pro guys are, they're not going to give you the setup sheet,
Of course.
but they'll tell you quite a bit of information.
Yeah. Cause I mean, it's still on you to, you can have the perfect setup, but it's still on your driver to make it do what it's got to do. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I was just wanted to ask you, how much time do drivers, I guess, in the off season, or how much practice? Well, obviously, at the time that you drove is different from the times now. Obviously, we've heard about tire shortage taking a toll on people's setup and what they can do. So my question is that how much time do you have in the off season or on a regular private day or something to test out your pro car?
It's definitely a lot harder now, just in the sense of the consumables have gone up so much. And also the wear and tear has gone up so much because it's not, a 600 horsepower motor, it's a 1,000 horsepower motor. And you go to OSW to test, right? And you go on the oval track, you get 2 laps. A set of sticker tires is 2 laps. And,
It's crazy.
If you're paying for tires, that's a lot of money. That's, what the pricing used to be. That's $100 per lap just in tires.
Right.
And even when you have the guys on tire deals, you can't call Falcon and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to go testing this weekend. Can you ship me just 40 tires? And I'd be like, well,
That'd be nice.
I don't know, man. So it's the consumables have gone up so much now. Back in 2012, 2013, when 2013, my car made 550 horsepower. I could go test, and we had CFRC back then too. That was really easy on tires. I could go test, and I'd show up with 6 brand new tires, and I had a fuel sponsor at the time too. I'd just go burn through these tires, and I'd get 30 laps. And it's like, okay, sure, this isn't a FD track, but seat time is seat time. Driving is practice. So, I go do that. But now it's like, even in 2014, when I built my turbo car, it's 2 laps to a set of tires. It's the consumables are what kills it now, I guess.
Yeah, you got to get some. Now it's less about product sponsors, but now for the drivers that are pro, they really need to be getting like cash sponsors to help out with the program.
Right. And then you if you have another car, it helps. Like what RTR does with Vaughn and Chelsea. Like they're coming to Freedom Factory next weekend for the drift event.
Right.
And, they're not bringing their FD cars. They're bringing the demo cars, which drive completely different. Not completely. They're very different cars, but they're driving. And they're driving the same chassis. And they're just burning laps. But they have the ability to do stuff and where Nitto will be like, oh, you're going to go to this event that's going to get all these spectators, live stream and everything. And then, Cletus will do something extra with them to generate more, not profitability, but
marketing.
You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So where Nitto's like, oh, sure, Vaughn and Chelsea, we'll ship you 40 tires. I don't know if they're going to go through 40, 20 tires, 30 tires, however many might be, because Nitto's getting a kickback out of that.
Right.
Because Nitto also sponsors the Freedom Factory. And there's stuff like that And I'm not hating on those dudes at all. Like, I'm very close with both of those guys, but the lower level dudes don't have the opportunities to do that. Like, Jonathan Hurst can't call Federal and be like, hey, I'm going to a parking lot in Paducah, Kentucky, and there's going to be like 4 dudes there with their squatted trucks, and I'm going to do donuts around it. Federal's going to be like,
squatted trucks.
yeah. Federal's going to be like, no, man, like, you can buy a couple tires from us. It's just, it's hard. It's like, I almost understand how people start to hate on the RTR thing, because it's like, well, they get to do this and they're already so good. But it's like, they've put in so much work to get to where they are and do the things that they do, and have the absolute genius marketing brain that JR has to do that stuff. And it's one of those things, like, that time might have kind of passed to exceed to the level that Vaughn is right now, just coming up from nothing and not doing YouTube or, you know, buying a ride with a bigger team or something like that. Not saying it's impossible, but it's very challenging.
Yeah, but marketing has changed totally since you started, right? I mean, you got the way Instagram and Facebook have blown everybody up, and the power of YouTube, right? You got Adam LZ, and you got Taylor Ray, and you got a lot of other drivers that had a following from YouTube that are taking that audience. And even Cletus, if one day maybe he throws his hat in the ring at FD, will be great as well. I mean, it's great for the sport, but as a driver and a new driver, it's more to manage, because now that it's constantly changing on how you got to present yourself to sponsors and all the different outlets, and you got to be on TikTok. You know, you got to have all these different things, and it's almost like you need to try to have somebody that you're close with help you manage that, because as a driver coming up, to manage all those things by yourself and still focus on driving is almost impossible.
It's very difficult. There are dudes that do it. I'm trying to say this delicately, because I'm not like talking trash about them, but like, the guys that are trying to do it all on their own, do all of their own like marketing management and all of their own mechanic work and all of the driving the rig, you're going to burn yourself out, and you're not able to, you have to constantly be creating content at this point. And like when I came into pro drifting, it was like this magical time when Instagram happened, and it's like, oh, okay, here's a free way to do it. Like, we can market ourselves for free and just post pictures and 15-second videos at first. And all the companies were just like, Instagram, we got to do Instagram and Facebook. So it was just this free thing you did. And if you had a YouTube, you just post like, hey, here's one of my laps from Formula D this weekend. But it was just post every day at Formula D on Instagram. And and the companies loved it. It was great. And then it evolved to like the YouTube stuff. And a lot of people get super upset that the YouTube guys like are stealing people's budget and this, that, but like, working so closely with Adam, that dude works harder than most people that I know. And sure, he is getting some stuff from YouTube. Like, there are some companies that are like, hey man, here's whatever, monetary or product, because you have millions of YouTube subscribers. But he didn't just open YouTube one day and go, I'd like 3 million subscribers, please.
Right.
Like, it's work. That kid works his ass off. It is the most impressive thing I've seen. So it's like, yeah, that sucks that like YouTube stardom is almost like a crapshoot. You don't know who's going to take off and who's not, but like, he did it. He works his ass off. You can't be mad at him for taking these deals, because the companies are getting a better value out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Adam LZ, I think we talked about before, he's like the real life Truman Show, right?
Yeah.
And people have basically followed him for a good portion of his life, right? So they kind of grew up with him, because he was doing it before he started drifting. He was on the YouTubes. But but I'm just saying that he does. I mean, he does. I know we had Officer Dan on a few months ago or whatever, talking, and when we were talking before we started the show, he was saying same thing, how hard he works and how much he has to sacrifice. Like, he can't go anywhere, right? Dan shared with us a story about that. They were pulled over, broke down on the side of the highway, and Adam just took a quick little selfie and they were able to like pinpoint, triangulate his position by the corner of a sign on the highway. He said, before you know it, there's 50 cars on the side of the road. And of course, Dan was pissed because he's trying to fix his truck.
Yeah.
But you know, point is that he does, and I know he has a hard time trying to just get away, and I'm sure it's getting at the point where he's just done with it. But we all have learned a lot from him. And I live vicariously through him because everything that he's doing is like what I would do if I had his money. I'd buy a compound, and I'd be drifting on it, and have all those sick cars, and I'd be doing everything that he's doing.
Absolutely.
Everything that he's doing. So like, it's great to see that. And yeah, I'm jealous, but not in like a spiteful way. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, man, I wish I that's, if I could live a life, he's living a life aside from, I'd love to be like, I love Top Gear, you know, those three guys.
Yeah.
That would be another great thing to do. But get back on topic. Adam LZ definitely is a, how can you say, he's an anomaly for us in drifting, and what he's brought to Formula Drift has been great. But there was, something else I want to ask you. I know I read one of the articles from back in the day, and you were talking about how Dale Earnhardt was probably one of your bigger influences as a driver. How does that? And me and Noel were talking about it. How can you, since he's not a drifter, what is it about Dale Earnhardt that you were able to pull in like inspiration from?
Yeah. Just how he handled himself. And honestly now, like, the more I get involved in the NASCAR scene, not saying I'm involved, the more I watch it and whatever, you know, I kind of realize like my racing career is like nothing how he drove, you know, and I love Dale, like this, that, the other. It's like, no, that dude like kind of drove like an asshole sometimes. And I don't think I ever like drove like that or did the things like that. And like, but the biggest thing that I've learned now that I wish I would have learned sooner and been able to put into practice was hearing the stories about like his souvenir endeavors, like the merchandise. Like there's tons of stories. Jeff Gordon talks about it a lot of, everybody thinks Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon hated each other. They were super close friends. Or not, they were very close. They worked with each other. But Dale Earnhardt was like, listen, man, you got to get these die-cast cards. You got to get these shirts. You got to do the hats. You got to do signings. You have to do this. This is where your money is. Because racing could stop tomorrow, but you can keep selling this, keep selling that. And I wish like I would have put that into practice more. Like knowing more about Dale Earnhardt now, his business side, I take more inspiration from that. But in a sense of like, I kind of missed out and I wish I would have done it. And, you know, there were times where I was like, oh, I'm just not going to spend the money on shirts because I'd rather buy this for my truck, or, you know, I don't need it, but I'd rather have that than like spend money on shirts. It's like, well, you know, you buy 100 shirts and you sell them, people see them, then you buy 200 shirts, you sell. It's that whole thing. Like,
right. You're marketing yourself.
Yeah.
Marketing yourself. Yeah.
Right.
And that's something that well, it's a good thing you pointed it out, because a lot of drivers, it's not even so much about your success on the track, it's how, you know, you people perceive you, how you market yourself, how, you know, you're in the people's eye more than anything. And you know, the track is just, you know, yeah, people see that, but if you have more merchandise, if you're more interactive with people, that sticks with them a lot longer than what they saw on track. And I think that's something to learn for most people up and coming into the sport.
Yeah, you're not going to get a sponsor to say, I'm going to win every event this year. It's more about...
You can't say that.
Right. It's more about, this is what I'm going to do. Try to get your sponsors the most exposure as you can.
I was just thinking, remember those old like wrestling action figures? You know,
yeah.
It'd be great if there was an action figure of Pat in that format. And then I think that would sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Pat?
I'd buy one.
There you go.
What do you think about that, Pat?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. Probably wouldn't sell too great.
What are you talking about? I'd be first in line.
Ben always with the questions from out left field. But, you know, I always say, like, back in, like, towards the end of the county line days, I always wanted to do, like some stupid WWF old school, like, video to challenge, like, the Orlando guys. Like, we all get together with, like, mullet wit, like, and just have this like belt and pass it around. We never end up doing it, but we
Yeah.
always joked about it. It was always something that I think you guys probably love too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I got another question, and this has to do with just the scene in Florida. Florida has gone, I want to say 5-6 years ago, where I would say people knew we drifted in Florida, but really not like that much, right? They knew Formula Drift came down, they knew about OSW or PBIR, only basically where Formula Drift would go. Outside of that, people are like, oh, there's drifting in Florida. Now you got clutch kickers, you still got Formula Drift coming down. You have the birth of Adam LZ's Compound, Taylor Ray,
Yep.
Cletus buying out what is DeSoto, right?
DeSoto,
Yeah,
yeah.
buying out DeSoto, making the Freedom Factory. What are your thoughts about Florida now? Seems like it's becoming a hotspot for drifting.
I was talking to somebody about this like the other day. It is very weird because when we moved from CFRC to OSW, the first event we did, there were like 60 cars, bunch of spectators. Like, oh, it was awesome. Like, cool, everything carried over. And then 3 events in, we would literally do events sometimes for 3 cars.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Like, I'd show up, unlock the gate, and I'd just be sitting there. And then like a car would pull in. I'd be like, oh, are you driving? Like, yeah, I tech the car. We could run an event, from 9 to 5, but literally run the event from 9 to 11 because the dudes would run out of tires because there were 3 of them. And they'd just be like, well, we're going to go home now. We'd be like, okay, cool. Like, we just lost money opening the gate. Like, it sucks. And that went on for a good year of just like, our average car count was like 20. And it was pathetic. Like, no one was coming. No matter what we did. And, the track owner was like, you guys got to market it more. You have to do this. You have to do that. So like Tyson would make flyers and pass them out. And Donnie would make flyers and pass them out. And then I'd be like, well, I'll invite some of the South Florida guys, or we'll talk to this person, and we'll do that. We'll do this. Nothing mattered. And then I think Formula D coming helped a lot, but also the skid pad at OSW changed the game completely.
Yep.
Like, I don't really go to OSW that much anymore, but like, I've been to 2 events this year to where the pits look like Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You can't, if you don't show up when the gates open, you can't find a place to park. And there's people like parking out in the grass and driving in, and people are parking their trucks and trailers like on grid because there's nowhere else to go for just a normal event.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting like 80 to 100 car counts for just normal whatever events. And I don't really know what changed. And I don't necessarily want to not that I don't want to give credit to these guys, but I don't want to say it's all from this, but I think it was Matt Genge, Adam, and Taylor driving the Z's.
Okay.
Because they just showed up in these cars, drove them, crashed them, bounced off each other, show up on a set of Kendas, leave on a set of Kendas, driving back and forth. Then more Z's started showing up. And then everybody's like what Chelsea doing, the E36s and E46s, those started showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Then FRSs started, we would go through weird phases of these huge car counts of one specific car.
Yeah.
Because the skid pad, you could drift anything.
Right.
Anything will drift the layout in second gear. But I really think it was Matt, Adam, and Taylor with the Z's just kind of blew everybody's mind. And I know they weren't the first ones to do Z's.
Right.
I know there were other people that did it, probably in Florida too.
Kevin
But,
Phillips.
Oh, boy.
So there were other people in Florida that probably did it too. And but I think them with their YouTube reach,
Mm-hmm.
people were like, oh, you can do that? You can just buy a Z and put steering spacers on it and go drift? I literally think it was the skid pad, the kart track at PBIR,
Mm-hmm.
the smaller tracks. Clutch Kickers is new, so they're doing great, but they didn't spur this.
Right.
And the Z's and the FRSs and the super low power, low maintenance, you can bolt one set of tires to it and drive all day. I think that's what changed everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's crazy now that you say that, because I mean, almost every weekend there's even private days and everything, and those fill up, and there's drifting every weekend here in Florida somewhere, and
Yes.
it's packing out. So it's definitely awesome to see the growth of the culture.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Well, now we got Jackson's been doing the Sebring events, which have been great. I don't know if
Oh yeah.
now especially there's that Holy Shift event coming up. I don't know if you're going to be able to make it. But that I don't have. When's the last time have you been to a Sebring event? No.
Never.
I mean, it's on now both tracks because Chris always likes to have 2 tracks, 3 groups, and he just rotates them through.
Yeah.
He's both tracks are on, or both layouts are on the actual track.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh,
a lot
really?
of fun. Yeah, and both tracks are mid to top of 3rd gear entry. I mean, if you have more power 4th gear, if you could do it. But a lot of fun. So it's gonna be fun. So now you got Sebring, so that's another track that we got in the mix.
I was just thinking
Yep.
about going back a bit. Pat Goodin coming out to PBIR for one night, and how excited he was for just being able to link the whole track.
When was this?
This was way back.
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm talking about way back.
Oh, okay.
Pat, do you remember what I'm talking about?
Like 2008.
Probably.
Like Turtec days then.
Yeah, it was the demo, right? That we did with Harry.
Probably.
I think so.
I remember like how ecstatic you were, because I think you were like one of the first. Actually, it was one of the first times we actually had full access to the track, the whole track. Because usually what would happen is that they would give us like a little section and it would be like, okay, whatever. But then like all of a sudden, like they opened the floodgates. And I know like Pat was salivating at that, and then he just went full throttle on that one.
Yeah, that event, that demo was the first time drifting happened after it turned into PBIR.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it went from Moroso to PBIR, that demo we did, I think it was 2008, was the first time they allowed drifting there. And Harry basically did the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like me, Dan Chilton, Gary James, I think Shant and Raffy were there. Like all the like
Old school.
What happened
old
to
school dudes
Gary?
were there.
I haven't even heard Gary's name in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know, working on tractors or something, I think. But yeah, that was sick. Like I wanted to drive with Gary the whole time because his car and my car made similar power, and his car had he put a damn 3-gallon drag racing fuel cell in it.
What?
He could do
no.
on a rotary car. He could do 1 lap and he had to go on for gas. So I was like, well, and they wouldn't, the way that PBIR structured it, they wouldn't let you drive by yourself. You had to be in a pair the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what am I going to do? And then Harry still had the 5 Series, like the crazy high horsepower
Yeah.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's like, we will tandem. And I was like, and he goes, mhm. He goes, you in front. And I was like, all right. So we would drift. And then at one point he was mad that I wasn't entering fast enough. Like when you come down the big long straightaway into the right, I'm like, my car made like 280 horsepower. It was wide open. I'm like, me. And then I'm like, I feel like, boom, boom. I'm like, what is going on? Harry just started crashing into the back, not crashing, but pushing me faster down the. Like I had to clutch in and just let him push me down the straightaway, and he would push me off, and then we would enter.
Wow.
That was
yeah. Harry's one. He's building something, right?
Is he?
Yep. I ran into him about let's say a month and a half ago at a car show up in West Palm Beach, and he picked up, I believe he picked up an E46, and he showed me pictures of it. He's putting a motor in it, so we may see him back out again
Sick.
soon. So I love Harry. Harry's freaking a blast.
I love Harry Trivola. That dude
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't know. You can't describe him. He doesn't give a crap about anything. He's just gonna go out
Anything.
there. You tell him you want to warm up your tires. He's like, I don't want to warm up my tires for what? I don't need to warm up my
They're
tires.
gonna get warm anyway.
Yeah. It's just that it's one of those personalities that it's like his mold when they made him, they threw away the mold. That was it after that.
That was it. One use only.
Yeah.
I got a question in the chat from Emil, whichever, Emil Garcia, who wants to know, Pat, how do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
It's disgusting. It's not good.
It's stupid. I agree.
If people are like, "Oh, we just don't have a complex flavor profile," shut up, you dork. It's bad. This is not. This is not
Definitely
good, man.
Yeah, you would hate me.
You like pineapple on pizza?
I love it.
You're stupid.
Yuck, dude.
Oh.
Oh, boy.
Okay. I got a question for you, and you may want to think about this. If you had to pick your favorite tandem, now you've driven a lot of tracks, so just like your favorite all-time tandem, doesn't have to be competition. It could be just for fun. If you can just look back in your career and everywhere you've been, what would it be?
I got that. It's remember when XDC went away and that W Drift series came around and they
W
ran
Drift?
that round? Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
World Drift,
Yeah.
but it was still XDC and it was like the hokiest, cheesiest thing. me and Jeremy brought our FD cars there because we're like, oh, like a bunch of like gnarly dudes are probably gonna come, and it was like $3,000 winner take all. So we're like, we're trying to win this thing,
Mhm.
expecting like other dudes from out of state to come, other FD cars, like this and that. It was all the Orlando locals, and like Tom Barnhart was there. His car was gnarly and he shreds, but like it rained right before top 16 started. It rained right after qualifying, and we couldn't even run because the track was so flooded. And we're sitting there, and they're like driving trucks on the track, and they finally cleaned it up enough for us to run. And we look at the bracket before we start. And like I'm on one side, and Jeremy's on the other side. And I was like, all right, that'd be cool. Like meeting finals, like whatever. I kind of feel bad about it. Like we get down to finals, and I was like, oh, it's me and Jeremy. I was like, oh man, me and Jeremy, our cars make the same horsepower. We're on literally the same exact tire.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm just gonna let all the air out of my tires. I didn't have a tire pressure gauge. I just like sat there with like my truck key and just let the tires out so they looked flat. And it was like still super wet. I was like, all right, this will be pretty good. And I qualified first, so I led first. And I felt so bad because Jeremy thought I didn't air my tires down. He thought we were just gonna drive normal. And I just rocket ship. And he was like trailer hitching behind me, like super gnarly. And then I go to follow, and I didn't have a spotter, like because we didn't bring spotters or anything. And I was like, well, it's Jeremy. He had to be touching me the whole track. I was like, I guess I just got to touch him the whole track. And it's like starts raining again, and I'm like, it's probably the closest I've ever followed anybody consistently. The whole time around CFRC, I was like, oh, like every transition, I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit him, and somehow didn't. That's the one that always sticks out to me because I think that was the first time that I was really like, all right, like if I hit this dude, I hit this dude, like whatever.
Nice.
But at the same
There's
time,
gotta be a better one.
I mean, at the same time, Jeremy Lowe has had his fair share of crashes. So I think if you would have hit him, he
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have minded it at
Yeah.
all.
He crashed really bad down here at the D1 event down
Oh,
in
yeah.
Miami.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That was a bad one.
Yeah, I remember that crash specifically because it was raining and he came in late and clutch kicks into the corner. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good story because, and I guess we all have these moments in driving where it just impacted the most, and I think that was probably a point where you were going to the next level, and I think
Yeah.
you should, I guess, being on Jeremy like that made you realize like, okay, wow, okay, you're getting there, right?
Yeah, that you're
Yeah,
capable of more.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, they're both rain battles that I'm thinking of. If it wasn't that one with Jeremy, it would be with Chelsea in
So,
2019 in Atlanta.
yeah, I remember because
Uh,
you're like,
when
it
it
was so good.
Yeah, and like I follow, and it sucks that he hit me, and like whatever, because I wish we would have like actually battled.
Mhm.
But following him, I was like, 'cause I talked to him beforehand. I'm like, hey man, like I think I can win, like the whole event. And he goes, yeah, I'm like kind of nervous. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, like I'm kind of stressed to run you. Your car is like ridiculous. And I was like, yeah, I guess. And then I followed him, and I remember like we come across like the finish line, and we're like out on the rumble strips that are just ice. So we're
Yeah.
both stuck. And I was like, oh. And the only thing I could think to do was reach down and push to talk to Jeremy. And I was like, holy shit, Jeremy, that's the craziest thing I've ever done. Like still drifting. I just straight up, and Jeremy goes, I've never seen you do that before. I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, I think we can win this event. And then we like, whatever. But like that following Chelsea there was crazy. Like looking back, you watch the run, it really wasn't like that great of a follow run, but it was just the conditions were so crazy because you entered and right where inner one is, there's a river that runs across the track. And I literally don't know how we both made it. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. I was at that event, obviously spectating, but it was such a crazy event. I've never been to a rain event where I actually enjoyed the competition like that, because usually when it's raining, it's like, oh, they're skating around, it's icy. That event was gnarly. And then and then at the end of the event, all the cars were like covered in mud, in that red clay. And I was like, man, they all had to drive through that. I mean, I don't know how I don't remember how far you got into the event, maybe top 8 or so, but were you encountering a lot of that red clay, and how did that affect the driving?
So the clay, I didn't notice, but when I ran ESSA in top 8, when I led, I was starting to dry up a little bit, and I still entered a little too far back. So I had to like extend farther, and I dropped my front driver's side wheel at inner one through the mud. Right as ESSA was coming in, like not full angle with me, but kind of like pointing at me to like attack. And when I did that, it shot mud all over his windshield. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. But what it mostly shot through was his passenger side window. And it literally ruined his car. They tried to clean it at the event, and they're like, we can't clean it. And then somebody was supposed to clean it, didn't. It shows up to Jersey, and it just set in the Achilles rig and baked. And he's like,
pottery.
He's like, yo, I'm literally about to paint my car. He's like, all my stuff is so messed up from the clay. He's like, I have to paint my car right now. And he like took his was pressure washing his seats because they were so disgusting, and then like sanding and painting his car back white again on the inside.
Oh wow. Well, yeah, that clay ain't no joke. I have another question for you. What would you say is your favorite track that you've drifted?
I like Road Atlanta a lot. I like Long Beach a lot. But I also really like Englishtown. The road course at Englishtown.
Okay.
That track that's so fun. And it's crazy because it's fun all the way down to like all those dudes, or the Bloodmaster dudes, are driving 250 horsepower SR cars. It's fun in those, and it's fun in even a stock Z. But then you can also bring a Formula D car there, and it's big enough that it's still fun. That track's a lot of fun.
Nice.
I had a question going back to his encounter with Chelsea. What is your take on their public strategy from their last event, where they were saying that they were going to be, I want to say sandbagging, but they were taking the
strategic approach.
Yeah, whatever that.
Yeah. What's your take on that?
Like purposely qualifying low.
Yeah.
I mean, I get Chelsea's thought process on it of like, if I'm going to win the event, I have to run Odie, Matt Field, Forsberg, Vaughn. He's like, I'm going to have to run these guys eventually. He's like, so if I have to meet them in 32, I'm getting it out of the way, whatever. And with a driver like Chelsea, follows so crazy and aggressively, and the way that car sounds following you, he can like kind of throw you off. And that's his whole thought process. It's like, oh, if I just follow first, I can pretty much do the best follow I can do, and like make that dude push too hard. Not that Chelsea needs somebody to make a mistake for him to beat them.
Right.
Like, I personally think Chelsea is the best drift car driver in the world, but like, he can do it and just be like, all right, we'll do better than that. And then this dude has to do a perfect follow behind Chelsea, which that car is insane to follow, because it's just so much angle and it's so fast, and it's like picking tires up. You're following, you're like, what is going on up there?
Right.
And like, I get the concept. It's just it's probably not something I would do. But
Okay.
I don't drive like Chelsea, so
I mean, in many ways, it's very reminiscent to what we saw with Daigo Saito when he joined the series, and we found it very peculiar at first how he wasn't qualifying in the top spot. He was always usually in the middle of the pack, and then eventually we figured out, it's like, wait a minute, when you analyze the trajectory of the battles, he doesn't really encounter any sort of heavy hitters until he gets towards the finals, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's when he would have to work extra. So in many ways, this isn't, I mean, in my opinion, this isn't new, but now what's different about it is that it's
More
out
obvious.
so open and publicized the way that it's the way that they went about it. And it also takes me back to the One More Run over at Clutch Kickers, where when we interviewed some of the drivers, we were surprised to find out that they prefer to chase because they felt that they had a better chance overall of getting obtaining a victory with that approach.
Yeah. And well, I mean, one of the other things is that you get to chase first, and that allows you to conserve tires for your second run. So that way you have a better chance of running away with it because you got more tire. So that's really the big.
You definitely use less tire in the chase.
So, and it also makes more strategic sense now than it did back when Daigo was doing it, because there's no championship points in qualifying. So why even push? So
I also think with Daigo, that wasn't a strategic thing. I think Daigo knew his strong suit was tandeming, and he would make that car so fast because he'd just be like, you don't win on Thursday, you don't win on Friday, you win on Saturday in the battles. So he's like, why would I waste my time? I know I'm going to qualify, so I'm just going to make my car as tight as it's going to be, with variables to follow slower cars, whatever. But like, he'd just leave the car hooked up and just kind of do whatever he wanted. So he'd be like, okay, whatever, I can just do this lead run again, and then I'm going to follow this guy, just touching him the whole way around the track.
Yeah. When Daigo came over, his first year over, I think that changed a lot for a lot of the other drivers as well, because he brought his experience to the table. And when he first came, he was shredding, and people were like, wow, okay, we need to step it up. And now when Daigo comes, I mean, he's still a contender, but that first couple years, he was like the man, and then everybody caught up, and it really wasn't that way anymore. So it's cool to see that. I wonder if hopefully next year we'll get some of the other drivers like James Dean and all them back over from Europe.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
We got a question in the chat, which it's a question, and I'm just going to throw it out there because, I mean, once you hear the question, you're going to be like, really? And so it's by Stephen. It's a question. It's a question.
You're
All
gonna
right.
ask it?
Yeah. Stephen Chico writes, are you still the king of spring break?
I don't know, man. I don't think I am anymore.
Wait, what? Hang on, sir. Whoa there, mister. Whoa there. All right. It doesn't matter who, if you feel that way, but in our hearts, you will always be the king of spring break. All right, sir?
I'm like the Archduke of Teacher In-Service Day or something.
The
Wait, what?
Archduke. The Archduke.
I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
Is it Archduke of having fun in spring. Not the
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Also, we have a comment in the chat that is relevant to what we're talking about. Higher qualifier. This is from Paul S., who writes, higher qualifier should be able to choose lead or chase, especially being you don't points for qualifying. Which it makes sense in some regards, but I don't know.
I kind of agree with that, because it goes back to how they do it in drag racing. Higher qualifier has lane choice.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Pat, your thoughts?
I mean, I guess it kind of doesn't matter. Like, I guess you could do it, but
Yeah, but
it's
you're
kind of
right.
like, it doesn't matter, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but you think about it. Okay, it goes to drag racing, right? There's
Okay.
always the lane that everybody wants,
Of course.
right? So if the majority of people are going to chase, it kind of defeats the purpose in a way. I don't know, because most of the time people are going to want to chase, right?
Correct.
Just like in drag racing, people if the right lane is good, everybody's gonna pick the right lane.
But you always have those surprises where there's some cars that are actually better suited for the left lane, and then they actually start winning on that side, and it goes crazy. Drag racing is a whole nother sport anyway, so yeah.
Well, but then you have the situation where there's a car that's evidently a lot faster than your opponent. So why wouldn't you want to take the lead position first, and then you burn more of your tires, and then when you switch positions, then in many ways you don't have to work as hard because your tires will have less grip going up against a slower car.
Oh, slower.
Well,
Yeah.
if your car's super fast, like if I'm gonna go up against somebody that's say I'm super fast,
Okay.
I would want to lead first, essentially.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be so fast that I can control my tire wear. Like I can still be like, I'm talking like a crazy dramatic speed difference to where I can like run them down the run up, get gone, like at Seattle, and then I can hold it on the bank, like get the good gap going, and then be like, okay, cool. I'm just going to like downshift an extra gear, like barely, like still drift, right? Do a good lead run, but like not a lot of wheel speed, save my tires. And then like instantly at the finish line, let off, like take as long as you can to cool your tires back off. So you're kind of in control of your own tire wear a little bit, right? It's not like a huge thing.
Talking about Evergreen, what was your approach to hitting that bank? Because it definitely caused a lot of issues for a lot of the competitors this last round.
That bank is terrifying. It's so fast, and it's not very banked. It's like it's not flat. Like there's banking to it, but like it's flatter than any other oval track that we go to, and it's really long. Like the turn, you're on the bank forever.
Yeah.
It's scary enough to the point that like every year when I was running my own car, they do an event on Sunday, and they allow all the pro cars or like the pro-am dudes that have like all the safety gear. They let us run the 5/8 bank. I would never pull my car out and do it. I was like, that's so scary. I'm not going to do it if I don't have to. Like it's gnarly. You're entering it like in the 90s, I think, like very high 80s. And that's the weird thing too with Seattle. You're entering like high 80s, slowing down a little bit, like a few miles an hour. By the end of the bank, when you're checking up for the outer zone, you're in like the mid to high 90s.
Oh wow!
Like you're gaining speed on the bank. That's probably one of the few banks that you're really picking up speed like that.
Yeah. And it's noticeable too, because you see like they enter with a little bit of angle and then they start dialing up the angle because they're starting to pick up more speed. So it's interesting. I mean, that is fast. I mean, at 90 mile an hour sustained speeds.
Well, yeah, coming out of the first turn at 90. And
then you got to transition into like this really tight, that's a terrifying track. I see your point there.
The scariest part is it's an oval track, so it's meant to go left. We're going right. You literally enter at the open end of a wall.
Yeah.
Like it's the open end, like because there's a pit exit right there, or that's the entrance, I guess, for like when the big semis come in, and like they would put a giant tractor tire there, and we're always like, yo, move that. That's way more dangerous. Because if we hit that, we're gonna spring off and crash back into the wall. But that track is super dangerous. That's where Dye destroyed that IS 250, like 2009, I think. And that crash, like Justin Pollock's dad has told me about it. He said he watched the crash, and everyone's like, "Oh, we just witnessed the first death in drifting." Everybody thought that died because it was such a bad crash.
Yeah.
Well,
and last year he almost rode off a car too with the BRZ got really tweaked too. So he has bad luck on that track. So.
Yeah.
But in regards to that track, does the grip levels get progressively worse as you go higher into the bank?
No.
No?
It's about the same. When if you're touching your bump, like touching or like an inch away, there's grip there. But if you go into where you're because all the Formula D cars have at least a foot. Well, the Corvettes don't, but like the other cars have like a foot of just squish space.
Right.
They're just fiberglass. Once you start squishing the bumper, you go out of the rubber, and it's not necessarily you're in the marbles, but you're just on a green track. There's no rubber there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what happened to Adam. Like he said it was like the marbles, but I think it was more so he went up into the green track because he squished the back of the car in and was still going. And then when it hit, there wasn't enough grip on the rear tires to go like and keep going. It just pushed them like that.
Wow. And that's a huge disadvantage for the Corolla hatchback because it doesn't have a lot of overhang for the rear bumper. So
Yeah, there's a lot of those in Formula D these days.
I mean, I thought the disadvantage was the panhandle bar, but I mean, you learn something new every day, right?
Handlebar,
Yeah,
the
no.
handlebars.
And they end up bar.
we have discussions about that.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I brought that up is because I was looking at Adam LZ's in-car video, and I was just trying to sort of like dissect it and analyze it and trying to sort of figure out what exactly happened. And I think it's just came down to just an unfortunate entry where he just didn't enter at the right area, because comparing it to all of his other runs, like his practice and qualifying, like he had the right approach. It just so happens that every so often, and it happens with every driver, that you just don't attack the course properly and you land yourself in trouble.
Yeah, it was probably one of those things. He probably entered 1 mile an hour faster or 3 feet later. Like these like almost in like unmeasurable distances or speeds, just that one little bit, and it threw him off, and then he got up into like the no rubber part of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know really anyone that's like a solid driver that hasn't super crashed a car at Seattle. Like it's just a thing. Like Seattle's a gnarly track, and it's bound to happen to everybody.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So what are your plans for next year? I mean, you're kind of just you did a couple rounds of clutch kickers, and I mean, you got a new build coming, or you just kind of taking it easy, taking some time off?
We got some things.
Got some things. Some things.
Got
Okay.
some things.
Yeah. Oh, you know who else? You know who else bought a car? I don't know how far along he's gone. Is Bill Stenger?
Oh, I heard about that one.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about that one.
Yep.
Oh, talking about Bill Stenger, I had a question for Pat.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. So Bill Stenger, he's, for those of you who don't know him, he's a South Florida favorite from back in the day. He retired, I guess you can say, but as Tim mentioned, he's probably coming back. But he had this strange approach to driving that when he brought it up to me, I was just like, that makes no sense. But he was telling me that he feels that he drives better the more he drinks. I'm talking about of the alcoholic kind. Now, considering how Pat Goodin and Bill Stenger are good friends, party animals together, I was just curious, Pat, do you share the same approach, or is it something that's not recommended?
I've definitely witnessed the talent juice go into Bill Fisher
McDonald's cup,
and watch the talent come out. And I was like, how are you doing that? I don't know. We've messed around a few times, like at CFRC, like private days. And we just have like, oh, drink a couple beers. Like, I'm gonna do some donuts. You know, just like whatever, no one's there. Be like, man, I'm doing the best donuts. Like no one can do donuts better than me. And somebody be like, look at this sick video I took of you, like doing donuts. And they're like drunk too. And I watch them like, whoa, man, I guess I don't know how to do donuts.
Oh, that's funny.
That actually takes me back to remember when Bill did the grind up
got
against
his
the
car up
wall
on,
on
yeah,
CFRC?
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
think
boy.
he was the only one. I think there's a couple that did that at CFRC.
Yeah.
I remember going for a Frankenslide one year, and we saw an RX-7 go over the wall in the back.
Oh, I
who was
remember
Steve.
that.
That was Steve?
Yeah.
Angry Steve.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god! I hope he didn't die. That was that was nuts.
The best part is the only thing it did is he had like a slip fit exhaust. It pulled the slip fit out of the exhaust and bent a ball joint.
Oh my goodness!
That was it.
Wow.
Because we're like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna get back? And I was like, all right, I'll go get my trailer and we'll come get it. He's looking at it. He goes, I don't know. I think I can drive it. And he turned it on. We're like, oh, the exhaust is hanging off. And he drove it like back to my trailer. And I drove it because like the ball joint was really, really bent.
Yeah.
So we couldn't drive it home, but we drove it onto my trailer. And we're like, well, I guess it's good.
There ain't good enough.
Wow, that was crazy. That was the craziest crash with the most minimal result ever.
Yeah.
But thank God, that was amazing.
Gives me another question. That is, so in the Holy Shift Fest, they're going to be having some drift games, which
Yes.
is not new. CFRC had a set of drift games of their own, and I do recall Mr. Pat Goodin was a host and also a
Judge?
contestant
Oh yeah.
and a judge too. Yes, yes. And Pat, do you recall or would you recommend a game that perhaps we should do at the Holy Shift Fest?
So we're talking like in the car stuff, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Not Pong, not beer pong or anything like that. No, in the car games. Well, I guess you could
So
do it off
we-
your dash. I don't know.
Earlier last year, OSW did a drift games event, and they would always do like the table game. You know, like come in, you got to park next to the table. And I was like, oh no, we need to do the tandem table game. That's sick. You get two cars, and they have to like. We made them drift the entire track. They had to tandem the whole track, and then they both had to come into the table, and you measured from table to door handle of the first car, then door handle to door handle of the second car.
Oof.
Hmm.
Wow.
That was like, there were these two kids in BMWs. I wish I could remember their names, but they like, and the rule was if the cars touched like at all, it was 0. Like it didn't
Oh,
count.
wow.
Same as like touching the table.
Mhm.
But the E36 kids go around, like ride doors, the whole track layout, come in, and they ended up like bumping each other right at the end. I was like, hey, I'm still gonna, like, it doesn't count, but I want to measure it. The first car was like 4 inches from the table, and there was 6 inches in between doors,
Oh,
like
wow.
door handles.
Wow.
But that's like, it's
Yeah.
sick because like
Yeah.
you see who like will really push it. And, like
Mhm.
if you got two guys that work together really good, the tandem table game is sick.
Tandem table game. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. I'm thinking about like a slight modification of that, where like you have the table in the middle of the track, and then you have the two drivers on the opposite side of the track, but they drive away from each other, right? They do their runs, and then they have to meet up at the table in the middle.
Slide together.
Yeah, they slide towards the table together. Hang on, let me finish. And then how you measure it is that you get from the bumper of one car all the way over to the other side, and then you get a total width of the two cars and the table in the middle. And that's how you judge that one.
Yeah.
I mean, that
It's gonna be a table sandwich. I don't know.
Mm.
A
that
table
sounds
sandwich.
good as long as the insurance company isn't watching.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we had them drifting at each other. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Hmm.
Wait, they're not going to be going that fast. They're going to be slowing down regardless. If you think about it, it's not going to look. They have side airbags too, right?
What cars
No.
have that?
What car? What drift? My car.
My car's never had side airbags.
I drive a Mustang. That thing's archaic. Okay, so that's not happening.
Well, it's a good thing Mustangs aren't popular in the drift scene, all right?
Thank
That's why you
God.
got Z's all over the place buzzing around.
Yeah, but we disconnect all that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not safe. What's the matter with you guys? How do you pass tech? That makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Oh boy.
You know, I know a guy. I got a question. I watched the video. You were over there with This was when you had the Riley's car, and you were over there with Hurt at the Hoonigan Garage.
Oh yeah,
And did you ever get your $5 from Hurt?
yeah.
Oh, you did? Because the video ended
Yeah.
like, "Where's my $5?" Then it was like, I was
It-
like, "Oh, did he get the money?"
It took him like, it was some ridiculous like length of time that it took him to give it to me, and then when he gave it to me, he like made me feel like an idiot for taking it. But then I like challenged him to something else for $5 more.
Uh-huh.
One of us owes the other one $5 right now, but I don't remember who it is.
That's funny. That's funny.
I just thought of something. Pat, just to clarify, you've in all of the events that you were involved in, you've had to tech cars at some point or another, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, what do you feel was the craziest thing that you saw somebody try to pass tech on? Like you saw it and you're like, I can't believe I'm seeing this.
Well, okay. So there was one time a kid with a Z31 showed up, and his windshield is like shattered. The whole thing, like one side to the other, corner to corner, top to bottom, just shattered. And I was like, look, dude, if there was a couple cracks, I'll let you drive. But like, that's ridiculous. Like, you could push on it and it would go womp, womp, womp.
Oh no.
I was like, he's like, well, dude, I just drove all the way here from like Jacksonville or whatever. And I was like, man, I'm really sorry. And I was like, we'll give you a refund. You know, we'll give you your $50 back, whatever. And he goes, no, I want to drive. And I go, unless you can get somebody to put a windshield in it. And then I like kind of joking was like, or you can like kick it out and just drive with no windshield as long as you got a visor or a shield on your helmet. He goes, oh, all right. And like disappears. And then like 45 minminutes later, he drives back up and I look and I was like, oh my God, he got somebody to put a windshield in that thing. Nope, he just kicked it out. And he drove the whole event. And then he's like, oh, my car's overheating. Can I use the hose? And I was like, yeah, sure. And, you know, fill your radiator up with Biflo water. And he did it. And he goes, man, it looks like it's going to storm really bad, like up near Jacksonville. I was like, yeah. He goes, all right, see you later. And he drives away, no windshield, and drove all the way to Jacksonville. And like somebody, I don't remember who else was driving up there. It might have been Andrew Huffman, was like with him or following him or saw him. Like a torrential downpour, and the kid just like cruising down 95 with no windshield. There was that kid, and then there was a Miata that came through one time, and it had like, I think it had the right harness bar, but it was like mounted funny. So I'm like looking at it, and I look at his harnesses, and somebody else is looking at the car with me, Tyson or Tommy, and they pull on the harnesses, and I go, huh? And they go, oh, you should look at this. And I go, okay. The kid, like, he got the harnesses that had the eyelet in the end that you bolt to your harness bar, but I guess he didn't have like a drill or whatever, so he zip tied the eyelet to his harness bar. And I was like, dude, that you don't have seatbelts. He goes, yeah, dude, it's right there. And I go, dude, that's not gonna hold anything. Like if you hit the brakes hard, you're gonna snap that. He goes, no, it's cool. And I go, I can't let you drive, dude. He goes, it's the best quote I've ever heard in tech. He goes, no, it's cool. I don't plan on crashing.
Yeah.
Confident man right there.
No, yeah, we've had some winners when we used to do county line. I've had people like not strap down the battery. I'm like, your battery's not strapped, and they're like, no, it's heavy. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? That
makes it worse.
That's the point. Strap it down.
Oh man,
that's funny.
Oh wow,
great.
Fun times. Tim, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't know. I'm. Only other thing is like, okay, so you got stuff in the works and you don't want to say it, and you know that's fine. And we will see you at Clutch Kickers next round. You're gonna be, I guess, in charge of crowd control on the slip and slide. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, also, who knows? Considering the track record that the track has had, we're gonna probably have some sort of storm to deal with.
Oh no, I hope.
Hang on, I'm just saying, just being.
It's rained every day down here for the last 2 months.
I understand.
Every day.
Yeah,
I understand.
For 2 months it's
that.
rained down here.
But the thing is, you want an expert in the field, all right, that has gone through everything, any sort of weather condition imaginable. This man has survived it all, and you want someone like Pat Goodin out there to ensure the safety of everyone that's out on the track.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm excited.
Where did the passion come from? Where did because I was doing King of Spring Break. Where did the passion and Pat?
Yeah, did
that come
question.
From you?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't from me.
Where did that came from? Jared.
Oh,
Jared Deanda.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, does something happen behind the scenes that we don't know about that perhaps you could enlighten, shed some light on?
I'm trying to think of when he gave. It's kind of like a lame story. It's not lame. It's just like kind of makes you sound like a bitch.
Do
I
tell.
was just talking to Jared. I was like, I think it was 2013, and like had the bigger motor in my car, the dog box. I was like, oh, I'm kind of competitive now. Like, I wasn't like winning anything, obviously. I was like, dude, I just can't believe like I get to drive with like Forsberg and Turek. Because when I got into drifting, I didn't watch D1 videos. I didn't watch any of the Japanese stuff. I watched Formula D and like the Drift Alliance videos.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, I get to drive with Vaughn Gittin Jr. I get to drive with, all these dudes. Like, this is the craziest thing in the world to me. I was like, it's so cool. And then JTP beat me in 2013 at Atlanta. This is all at Atlanta. And I was just like, man, like I was driving really good all weekend. I was like, I think I might like have something for JTP. Like, it's going to be really hard. And I just messed up really bad. And like, I felt like I embarrassed myself. Everybody else is like, dude, whatever. It's your second year of Formula D and it's JTP. Like, I basically coming up the hill, I like threw too much and had to go like straighten out and then go back. But I was just like, I'm devastated. And like, I just came back and I just started crying. I was like, I'm such a failure. This is my, my 8th Formula D event ever. I was like, I'm such a failure. Like, I can't believe it. And like, JTP is the coolest dude. He came over and was like hugging me. He's like, dude, like, it's okay, man. He's like, I've been doing this forever. Like, this is, I'm in a Falcon Mustang. Like, you're in a 240 you put together in your garage. Like, don't freak out about it. Like, don't get sad. Like, and then like Formula D came over to try to like film me crying. And I was like, God, I was such an idiot. And JTP like got in the dude's face. He goes, you need to get the F out of here. Like, go away. Like, pushing the camera out. And I was like, oh my God. And I told Jared that story. And then that's what it all turned into.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So it kind of
good
makes me sound
story,
like a bitch that I was crying, but
No,
no,
but
no.
that's a good
lot.
story. That's a good story because, listen, you guys put so much on the line. You dedicate so much time. You have to, people don't just do this because it's just like something, oh, I just want to do it, and see how it works out. No, you spent years and years driving local events, coming down south, going here, going there, getting seat time, wrenching on your car, saving money, living probably like not great, right? We cut corners. Like, I don't want to spend $25 on a shirt. My wife laughs at me because I still have the shirts like, since I first met her. I'm like, yeah, but it's a good shirt. There's memories in that shirt. And she'll start throwing stuff away on me. But I would rather throw, $50 at the car than buy a $50 pair of shoes, right?
Yeah.
And these are things that we do. We sacrifices that we make. Yeah, you need new shoes. Sacrifices that we make. So all that's going to come to a point where you're going to perform and you're going to let yourself down, or you're going to put too much pressure on yourself. As a driver, I think a lot of people do that. I know I do that. I'm always more critical of myself than I am. Like, I can sit there and go out everybody and they can spin, and I always, hey, listen, spin's good. You're learning the limits of your car. Don't beat yourself up. And God, when I spin, there's just two people that really beat me up. One is Chris Jackson and myself, right? Those are my two biggest critics. But so no, we're all human, and we're all going to have those points where we break down. So actually, I think that's a great story.
Yeah, it's an awesome story. I love it.
Yeah. So, but were you going to say something, Ben?
Well, yeah. But go ahead. Just go ahead.
No, but a flip side to that. Well, maybe not flip side, but what would you say was your in your days traveling with Formula Drift, where the craziest moment, whether it be in the pits, an after party, or something going on, a heated moment between you and another driver? What would you say is the craziest Formula Drift moment for you? Because we all saw Vaughn Gittin and Asbo. They almost fought, right? I mean, now Asbo's training, so we see him doing kickboxing and stuff. So there's big things to come, hopefully soon. I always say
I would pay to watch that fight though.
See,
we got a supporter.
I got really criticized. We had a little skit the last show. I go, we need more fights in Formula Drift.
Oh man,
NASCAR, they throw down, they start fighting. It's exciting, right?
Look, Pat already has a weapon right there.
Yeah, he does. Look, there you go, right there. Yeah, I got some flack for that comment. But obviously, I'm not serious. Well, not 100% serious. But all that passion. But if you could pick a moment, good or bad, in Formula Drift, I would probably say, wow, that was the craziest moment.
I can't think of anything like super. I mean, there's some stuff I can't talk about, but like,
okay, well, something you can talk about.
Not even involving me necessarily. Like, there's some stuff that's happened with drivers like on grid where it's like there've been fights, but it's just like we don't talk about it. Right. I don't know. The crazy, like, I don't really think anything like that crazy has really happened to me.
And it's probably because he's the king of spring break, right? He's seen so many crazy things.
I've seen it all.
So he's seen so much. So for him to pull crazy, it would have to be like pretty extreme. So
and not to mention what he could remember.
Well, what he could
because
remember
oftentimes,
too.
I mean, you know,
Yeah, it's all a blur.
Yeah, it's all a blur. That's for sure.
So, okay, there's two.
Oh, okay.
One of them's not crazy. It's just like the first top 16 I made in 2013 when I beat Powers at Irwindale. Like, to me, I was just like, I remember doing it and I was like, holy shit, I just won a battle in Formula D. I'm going to go to, I get to go to top 16 intros. And like Tom Barnhart was spotting for me and he goes, dude, you won. And I was like, oh my God, like freaking out. And then it was like, that was crazy to me because then I went out for intros and I had a Falcon model in my car with me. And I drove out with DMAC, like another Falcon car next to, and then we pulled out and there were the Falcon girls at our cars. I was like standing under the Falcon umbrella. And then I ran Tyler McQuarrie in top 16 and like the Hankook girls are lined up behind him and the Falcon girls are lined up behind me. And just like seeing that picture, I was like, this was everything that I ever wanted.
Right.
Like that was crazy. Yep. The other one is just us being idiots. Me and a few other drivers that I won't name that are really good at drifting that still do it. In Seattle, decided after qualifying on Friday, we're like, there's a bar in town everybody goes to. Like, yeah, we're gonna go to the bar. And Jeremy Lowe would always like keep me and Tommy and whoever was with us like in check. Like not like, hey, don't drink too much, but he'd be like, hey, like we need to leave at 11 to go to bed, or he was always like
the responsible.
And you know Jeremy, like he's a super fun dude, like whatever. But he was just like, hey, we're here to race. We're not here to party. We can party when we're done. So we're hanging out, we're drinking, having fun. I was like, yeah, I'm having that was a good Friday night. And I kept looking at Jeremy and I was like, he's still, we're still drinking beers. And like these other very people that have done very well in Formula D or they're hanging out with us. And I was like, they're still here. It can't be that late. We're still drinking. Tommy's with us and he's like hammered. And I was like, damn, he's gonna have a rough day tomorrow. I was like, I'm kind of drunk. Like, we should probably get out of here. Then the lights turned on at the bar. And I was like, oh, is there a fight? Like, something's happening. The guy's like, last call, leave. And I look at Jeremy and his face goes, oh. It was 2 a.m. We're like, oh no. And we go back to the hotel and we're like, somebody's like, I got beer in the truck. We're like, oh, we're gonna drink beer at the truck. Jeremy's like, no, we can't drink beer at the truck. I was like, we'll have one. He's like, all right, we'll have one. And we got like way too drunk. We go to sleep, we wake up, and like I knew it was bad because when I woke up, I didn't feel bad. I was like, oh, I'm good to go. And Jeremy's like, drunk. Nah, dude, you're still drunk. I was like, oh my God. He's like, all right, like went and got coffee. Like we didn't have to drive for like 4 or 5 hours. Like went and got coffee, like got food, whatever. He's like, hey man, you can't be at the Falcon rig right now. Like you're a liability. He's like, you need to go somewhere else and hang out. So it's like an hour before the meeting. He made me put my suit on and I walked down to other person's rig and like me and other people are in the rig sleeping because we're like, oh, we're all dying. And we go to the meeting and that event, I got 4th place. I ran Osmo in Final 4 and it was raining and I was so tired and hungover that I was sitting in the car and it was my turbo car that had like a really weird cam. So it idled really smooth. I'm sitting in the car and I like put my head back a little bit in the seat had my visor down. I just closed my eyes a little bit, and then something hits my helmet, and it was Tommy throwing a Mountain Dew bottle at me. I go, oh! And I look. Osmo's at the line, and I can't remember who was running grid. They're like, "Come on, you got to go in the burnout box." I was like, "Oh!" Like, I definitely wasn't drunk at all, but I was hurting, like falling asleep. It was bad.
Sounds like a little bit of a Bill Stinger kind of
I was thinking the
plan of
same.
attack there.
Well, I think I would have felt better if I did the Bill Fisher, but
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
a rough day.
it's still funny. You Bill Fisher, Bill Stinger. We know it was Bill Stinger, and I remember the times where I'm like, Bill, you're not on the list. He's like, yeah, I am. I was like, no, you're not on the list,
Yeah,
because I don't know where Stingers is his real name, and Fisher is just what he likes to do. I assume, right?
No, Fisher is his username.
Yeah.
Bill
That was-
Fisher.
Yeah, that was his
But
Yeah,
he
Bill
likes to
Fisher.
fish.
I believe so.
I don't know. This is Bill Fisher,
Yeah.
the king of county line, man. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, because we've been longtime supporters of your career, both on and off track, whatever hijinks you may be a part of, we still support you. And one other person that has supported you throughout all of your endeavors is your mother. And shout out to her, because it's just crazy how we're just caught up in the live stream. We're just hearing like this person in the chat saying like, "Oh, you guys are doing great," and we're like, "What's going on over here?" And then you came on board. You told us like, "Oh, the commentators love you," and I'm just like, "This is great." So, yeah, I don't know. It's just great to see that, considering how oftentimes you don't see parents getting involved in any sort of support, and to see her be involved like that, it's definitely unique and great to see. Definitely.
Yeah, she loves it. Like when I first started, she would like come to OSW when I was just doing normal events. She came like a couple times. She goes, "Oh, it's neat. Like that's what you're doing." Like I support it, whatever. But it was no competition or nothing. And then when I went to do Pro-Am, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to North Carolina. I'm gonna drive this Pro-Am, whatever." And she goes, "Oh, okay. That's a really long trip. You sure you want to, whatever?" I go, yeah, I got it. And I went and I won the first round. I came home. She goes, "Did you win?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh my gosh, so good. Like, that's awesome." Like, made a big deal about it. And I was like, "Thanks." And then the next round, she goes, "Well, I can't pay for it. Like, I don't have the money to pay for it, but like, I can pay for your hotels." I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be incredible." And then like, because the first round we only got a hotel one night because we couldn't afford anything else. And she's like, "I'll pay for your hotels. Like, I want to help you." And then that's how it started. Just like I started doing well, and she saw like how seriously I took it, and like it wasn't just like, I think it was more so she saw like when I would lose, and like, which shockingly in Pro-Am I didn't lose that much. I actually did good in Pro-Am, but like I was passionate about it. I'd be like, "Man, like this sucks." Like, not mad at anybody that I lost, like mad at me. It's like, I can't believe I drove like that. I suck, like whatever. And then it's like, okay, well, I got to fix the car. I have to do this. I have to do that. And she would always be like, "Oh, like that's like what you're doing." I go, "Yes, like I want to drive Formula D. Like this is everything that I've ever wanted to do since I was like 15 years old." So I don't know. I think she saw how serious I was about it. And then like, I'm also an only child. So like anything that I do is cool. Like I could like weave baskets and she'd be like, "You're the best basket weaver." No, but like, I think she just saw like how seriously I took it and how passionate I was about it, and was like, "Okay, like I'm going to help you out the best that I can." And it's, I think a lot of people think like my mom paid for all my drifting. Like, nope. Like we don't have the money to do that. Like she helped me like with hotels, and like the first couple years of Formula D, she paid for my hotels for me and stuff like that. Like, which is a big cost, but like, I'm not saying it's nothing what she did. It was big what she did, but like, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, like she just pays for everything for you." I'm like, no, like I wish that'd be awesome.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Okay. Tim, anything else you wanted to mention? No.
No, just we can't wait to see you back out on the track.
Yeah.
We at least think you're cooking something up. So we'll find out soon, right?
Maybe he is. Maybe
Yeah.
he's not.
Maybe not.
Yeah. We're gonna see him. He's not going anywhere. That's for sure.
Oh no, definitely not.
No.
Mhm.
And it's
Are you gonna be staying at the island hotel? Okay. All right. We're gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
staying close.
I have a hard 6 p.m. cutoff on Sunday. If the event's not over at 6 p.m.,
You're gone.
I'm out. I'm going to the island.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going with Steven Tassanero.
Oh, okay.
He's driving the Bell Raceworks SC300.
Oh, nice.
We've been helping. Bell does all the suspension, like makes knuckles and arms and all this cool
Right.
stuff for SC stuff. And like, he's kind of like, hey man, I want to push it. I want to show it's competitive. And we just designed like a V2 knuckle, like that. I don't really know if he wants me to tell all this, but surprise, there's a V2 knuckle that we don't know if it's going to come out or, it's in its first rendition. We have it on the car, but it's a toe gain knuckle for an SC. His front kit is, massive steering angle. Everybody's like, oh, it's an SC, it's an SC. Secret time, they're the same size as a Corvette wheelbase and track width.
Ah.
So,
Wow.
and like,
Ah.
I drove it and it drives like a Corvette. So,
Oh, wow.
That's a good thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Steven's going to be driving the Bell's SC300. So I'm going to go up there and help him out.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll definitely see you at the Island Hotel. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll be there.
Mhm.
Well, maybe not. Who knows? Maybe Pat is the type of person that like you can't contain him in party mode.
In party mode.
And then it's like you try to track him and you don't know where he's at because one moment he's there, another moment he's not. Like world famous Chris Jackson.
Oh,
Yeah, Jackson's.
Oh.
Yeah. We don't
yeah.
know about
Man,
you know,
were you
Jackson
guys-
still brag. I think Jackson said he beat you once. Was that true?
Beat him at what?
In tandem, I think
In tandem?
so.
I find that hard to believe.
It was probably a long time ago.
I thought you were talking about a drinking competition or something, but
Maybe not.
tandem, I don't know.
Maybe not. I
Pat?
don't know.
I don't know.
It could just be Jackson talk, dreaming stuff
I remember I went to the casino event
up. Yeah.
that was
yeah.
in the world's narrowest parking lot.
Yeah.
He's like, no, Jackson's like, no, it's cool, man. Come down. I was like, well, I'm like, I know my FD car isn't anything. It's only 400 horsepower, but like, it's kind of fast. And like, well, I mean, I'm going to bring big tires. He goes, plenty big enough. I was like, you sure? And he goes, oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I show up and I'm like, are we going like, how does this work? He goes, no, yeah. See that? Like that alleyway, we're going to the tracks in there. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. And then I got kicked out of the casino. Wasn't there like there was like a Quiet Riot?
Quiet Riot was playing.
And I got kicked out of the Quiet Riot show, but then you could stand outside and still see
Yep.
the show. So I was just yelling, Quiet Riot sucks. Just like, and then Bill Fisher's chasing me around the casino. So I was like, I'm leaving. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, a tactic that you could have done was just grab another shirt.
Oh, so we were at the island, and this was So Marco got kicked out from jumping off the rocks. I gave him my shirt. I gave him the clutch kicker shirt, and he was able to come back in. I don't know how they didn't figure that out, but it worked.
Oh, what a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. Because he was hiding underneath like the tiki bar, like he was underneath us, like a lost dog, because they kept kicking it out. It was like, hey, I was like, Mark, here, take my shirt, switch shirts.
Yeah, it took him a while for him to like divulge to us exactly what he was doing down there.
Yeah,
Like for all we know, he could have been like treasure hunting or something
Yeah.
like that.
like a lost puppy.
Treasure
He was like a lost puppy.
Yeah, and next thing you know, it was like, oh, this is what's going on. All right, well, here, let's help you out.
Mhm.
And it just like you mentioned, it all worked out.
It did. It worked out in the end.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Pat, where can people find you over on the internets and the interwebs?
I don't post anything.
You don't
I don't
post
do
it.
I don't do anything anymore.
You don't.
No?
So you've gone incognito, right? You've gone off the grid.
Yeah, just chilling.
Okay.
I don't have anything worthwhile to talk about anymore, so just kind of hang out.
Well, I feel like you've spent an hour and 30 minutes talking about a lot of interesting things. I
Yeah.
mean, we just learned about the SE300 having the same wheelbase and as the Corvette, right?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, that was amazing. I thought they were much longer, but
No,
yeah,
But
Well, and you got plenty of useful information for Steve because you're going to be helping him out. So you're still a valuable resource, my friend.
thanks, man.
yeah. And actually, are you I guess this is sort of like a consulting service. Are you open to anybody that's willing to hire you for such a service?
Yes and no. Like I would do it. I'm kind of like doing this with Steven just because we're trying to help develop the car together. No one's really asked me. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would do it.
Okay. Well,
That's interesting.
you heard it here. So you may see Pat. Well, you're definitely going to see Pat at Clutch Kickers in the next round, and you may see him elsewhere in some other track, helping out somebody else, or commandeering a vehicle. Which, of course, I know he's open to that as well. You have a talented driver who's capable of many things, and you've seen his ability, and I can't wait to see him. Like it's great to see him off the track, but I would prefer to see him on the track.
right, absolutely.
Prefer to see
And
him
he'd
on.
prefer to be on the track like the rest of
Yeah.
us.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
So, want to give another thank you to Mr. Pat Goodin for joining us tonight, and also to everybody who joined us in the chat. And what else I can say? Just actually, Tim, you wanted to mention a couple of things about Holy Shit Fest before we go.
We just wanted to mention Holy Shit Fest. I didn't even look at the. Anyways, it's going to happen the last weekend of August. It's going to be a 2-day of camping, and there's going to be a bunch of people. I don't know who they are singing and rapping and stuff. So, but it looks like it's going to be fun. There's going to be a discount code, Drift Sessions, so you can receive some money off your tickets. I think it's $10 until Monday, and then I think it goes down to $5. I know there's going to be plenty of seat time for the drivers. So Saturday is going to be the festival and 2 tracks going from 3 to I think 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And you can camp out at the track. And then the next day, it's not going to be any concert or anything. Next day is really just going to be for all the drivers just to spend another almost full day drifting, get another 7 hours of driving in. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We're going to have a good time.
Sweet. Are we doing a show 2 weeks from now? I think 2 weeks from now is Clutch Kickers, right?
Yeah, I
now?
was gonna mention that we're gonna be off until probably September.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because we have Clutch Kickers and then we have Holy Shit Fest right after. So
Yeah.
probably the first week of September.
we're gonna have a lot to talk about in September.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
Well, in any case, we're not going to be here for a while, folks, but you'll catch us on the live stream for the Clutch Kickers and the live stream for the Holy Shit Fest that's taking place.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and hope to see you around. Take care. Good night.
Good night.